A lot of people have questions about what the combat in No Man's Sky is like. No one on the Polygon staff has played No Man's Sky more than Russ, so he is here to talk to us about what goes on when you're fighting NPCs in this game.
Yeah, and we're looking at a little bit of footage here. We can see some sort of basic combat. I've been attacked by pirates in space, and I'm basically shooting them in space. You can see kind of an aiming reticle there to sort of lead your shots, but there's a lot of hefty auto aim, so it's really not that difficult. The combat doesn't feel anything like TIE Fighter or anything like that, super in-depth. It's pretty basic, but these space combat scenarios basically just involve tracking down your targets using your radar and shooting at them a bunch. There's not a lot of strategy to it.
Does it look as slow as it feels? Because the ship feels almost ponderous when I'm watching it in this video.
Yeah, you have some abilities to like boost and stuff like that, but generally you can't really steer very well while you're boosting. So the only way to get good aim is really to just go straight and slow.
Get good.
Get good.
All right, so now you're on the planet's surface and you are antagonizing these robots.
Yeah, they're called Sentinels. They're basically the police force in No Man's Sky. If you mine too much, or if you shoot a bunch of animals, or if you shoot them, they'll come after you. There's kind of a rating system, a wanted system, as it were. On the top right of the screen there, you can see it flashing.
I was curious about the wanted system. Does that go away over time or after you kill all the robots that have witnessed your crimes?
Yeah, you can actually do both. If you kill all of the robots, your wanted your wanted meter will go away. Or if you sort of break line of sight and hide from them, it will go away that way as well. So it actually works kind of similar to, Red Dead and Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm. So at one point I commented, "Oh, this does look floaty," and you said, "Well, I have a jetpack." So, what does it feel like to be in combat on the Earth's surface?
Yeah,
not the Earth, the planet.
Walking around in No Man's Sky is slow. The jetpack's probably the fastest way to move around. You've got to sprint, but it's just kind of like not really designed for combat movement. And you can just see it feels kind of jerky. But that's sort of kind of the upshot of all of the combat in this game, which is to say it kind of feels a little bit like an afterthought. The focus was always on exploration. I don't think they hide that fact at all, but you can see it just feels a little bit more stiff than the rest of the game. Here I'm trying to antagonize this guy even further to get my wanted meter up and maybe see some additional enemies, but it takes a surprisingly long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sort of running around. I sped up the combat a little bit just so we can get to the good stuff. But you can see some of the auto aim as well. Like, it's pretty generous. You really do not have to have good aim to hit these guys.
Do you enjoy the combat in this game, as clunky as it is?
It's fine. It feels like more of just like a side thing that you sometimes have to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's painful or the worst thing ever, but it's pretty dull. There are ways to make it a little more interesting. You've got some gun attachments that like do different kinds of damage, turn your gun into more of like an SMG, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just like, oh, I'm just going to shoot these guys a bunch. There's not a whole lot more depth to it. We're going to see it's going to escalate in a second to get even more hairy, and I actually kind of get overwhelmed very quickly once we get to 4 stars here. But it's just like, this is a lot of what the combat is. It's just sort of like strafing and circling, and, if you want some of the bigger enemies to show up, you really just have to kind of kill time. Yeah, this is, literally how long it took, and this is at 3 times speed before the next tier showed up.
Gosh.
And then the next tier totally rocks me. You can see my
Yeah.
shield went down. It was about at half, and then it just completely went down in an instant.
So if you weren't antagonizing them on purpose, you could have definitely run away by now and escaped.
Yeah, if you are not looking to do combat, it's very easy to avoid combat on the surface.
Now this is awesome.
Yeah.
Frankly, the moment when we saw this thing show up and we were like, "Oh, that's the next level of enemy that we're facing."
Yeah, this
that
is
pretty cool.
Tier 4. He's kind of a walker, and I'm trying to do damage. I've got some damage on my laser, but it's really not doing the trick. And then I realize I'm totally outgunned, so I basically try to make a run for it by blasting my way through this door.
Which does not work.
No,
Spoilers.
It does not work. I got 1 or 2 shots in there, but that's me dying. So, the combat is fine. It's not the worst thing, but I would definitely say if you're looking for a combat-heavy space game, No Man's Sky is not that game. It's all about the exploration.
So it's almost more like the combat becomes interesting when it's something that you accidentally trigger, like say when you're exploring a planet and you make a mistake and antagonize some of the creatures that live there, then it becomes a oh crap, I have to escape them situation. It's not interesting when you're going out and purposefully shooting at other dudes.
Yeah, running away from guys is kind of exciting. There are certain items, rare items in the game that you can steal, and the robots will get really pissed at you and chase you immediately. But the actual shooting at them kind of just feels like, oh, I'm just whittling down their health. I picked a fight with some friendlies here to show how you can do that as well. You can get their resources if they have anything good in their ships. I think this guy doesn't have anything. But if you do that, again, the Sentinels will show up. This time they have spaceships, and you'll have to fight them too. My ship's actually pretty well suited for space combat now, so I take them down pretty quickly.
Nice.
I'm very experienced.
All right, thanks for talking to us about the combat in No Man's Sky, Russ. You can check out the rest of our No Man's Sky videos on youtube.com/Polygon, and we've been streaming it on Facebook all week.